Hey everyone, welcome back. Good to see you all today. Happy Tuesday. Yeah, so I took yesterday and today off of work. I was in Chicago yesterday for a whiskey trip. Really good time. Would recommend for sure. Yeah, welcome. So, since I'm off and I just got home and I've got a couple of hours to kill at least, I am feeling pretty motivated. Want to keep working on this project. I'm having a really good time doing it. So, yeah, we've made some pretty good progress. Starting to think about some of the longer term implications for this sort of thing. Yeah, we'll get there. All right, so first of all, oh, here we go. A hype train is close. Oh boy. So Dominic, thank you so much for the 7 months. Taryn, thank you for the 23 months. Much appreciated. I appreciate that, my friends. Thank you. Pingling Sling, welcome. Woo, I actually made it 20 of your live streams. Nice, yeah. So are you have you typically watched the content on like YouTube or similar? Because for a while I was debating like, is it worth the trouble of uploading? But now I'm just uploading, but I'm not editing things out because ultimately trying to actually edit stuff in the YouTube interface kind of stinks. So just kind of a pain in the neck. Something I wanted to basically make it as low effort as possible on myself. So I just upload unedited streams now and let folks skip around, which I hope is okay too. But welcome and welcome, Flo. Good to see you as well. Yeah, how are you all doing today? Hope everybody's doing well on this nice Tuesday afternoon. Sunny day here in Michigan. Still a little bit cold, but hopefully we're getting to the point where we're going to have some nice weather coming up. I've got to do some yard work, which will be fun, but oh well. All right, really quick before I dive in, I'm going to get some music going. One sec. Spotify has been really flaky on me, and I wonder why. Maybe something about like my dual stack setup or similar. Because if you go to open.spotify.com, like the web interface, it works fine. But for some reason, spotify.com has been shaky on my connection the past couple of days. And yeah, I use the, hang on, dial the volume. I use the web interface because I don't really want to deal with installing a native app for Linux. I guess it's fine, or the Electron app or whatever it is. Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to remember if there's anything I wanted to talk about before we jumped in. Pretty much, I did just a little bit off stream the other time, but Terrence says it's fine. That's why you do with System Crafter's live stream uploads on YouTube. Yeah, makes sense. It's more for archival purposes anyway. If folks really want to watch it, they're certainly welcome to. I also have copies myself, but yeah, I mean, it's not so bad just to skip around a little bit either. So I was working on a couple of things here. I think when we left off was right around April 1st, maybe. So it's been a couple of days. Actually, we started working on this, didn't we? So I was talking with Peter a little bit about testing this Unix server thing, and we kind of came up with the following roughly. So we're going to have this function called Unix transport.install, and given an HTTP testing server, it will actually create the temporary socket, clean it up on the end of the test, plumb in the proper listener, start the server, register the client, ultimately fix the scheme, and then return that. So there is still a PR open. Come on. There we go. Oops. Got the comment as well. There we go. Yeah, so this is, let's see here. I tagged Peter a little bit ago to see what he thinks, but this is what I have so far. Again, it's just very similar. I think that the one difference in this is that because this service or this library explicitly does support TLS as well, we have to do a slight modification for the TLS case, but otherwise it's effectively the same. So I did that. And then I think yesterday I did a little bit of refactoring. Suppose we can just dig in. I could just show you all in the code. Hey, how's it going, Christopher? Welcome to the stream. So taking a look at this, I factored out, first of all, this check response function. I wanted the ability to basically drain the body no matter what. And in addition, we want to be able to report proper errors. So for example here, if you get a HTTP no content, which is the expected status code, we don't even expect a 200 OK. We just want no content because there is nothing to tell the client that would be useful, I guess. We have the HTTP headers, that's otherwise about it. So we drain the body, nothing to do. Otherwise, we read the body message and append it to this log here. So for example, we would get, HTTP 404 not found or similar, and that would actually show up here. And of course, we could make a proper error type for this, but it's probably just not necessary yet, so I'm not going to bother. On the server side of things, I made a couple of refactors, which I think made things easier. So I can show the tests as well. Right. So we're at the point now where I kind of broke the server up into a couple of pieces. So first of all, we have this context hook. This is a slight revision of what I had previously. The only difference with this being that I think we install it now in a couple of places. And I also added this peer-cred context function, which is exported for tests, because this test over here actually verifies that the peer-creds work. So I suppose going through the test for now. So we start the test server, we open up a net listener. Again, I left a comment here. There's a slight bit of overlap with what we're already doing for the HTTP test server, but the problem is that we actually want the zedhook server type. So we want to create a listener for it with a Unix socket explicitly, create a handler, and then actually verify that peer creds get passed. So in the request context, if it's set, will contain peer creds, and we actually return those. We try and do a synthetic push. We wait for the thing to shut down. And finally, we verify that, yes, we did indeed talk to our own process with our own process ID and our own user. So that's pretty cool. You're fine. Time for evening rest now. And you? Yeah, I'm doing really well. I had a really good couple days. And nice day in Chicago yesterday. Just got back this morning. Yeah, having a lot of fun. So just figured I would do a little bit of streaming today because I'm feeling motivated. So we will see how long that lasts. Getting back to this, I wanted to split this up a little bit as well. So now we have this unexported serve function, which is exported as test serve over here just for the tests. So the serve function now opens up the TCP listener and the Unix listener and then calls this underlying serve with a single net listener. This function now is totally testable. It just takes a context in the net listener and it blocks and it takes ownership of that listener itself. So we first of all, attach the context of the server to all of the requests as the base context. We begin serving and wait until the HTTP server is closed. We shut it down on context cancellation, and ultimately we close the listener as well. The handler, I don't believe has changed. Oh, actually, I did factor something out. So the push function had some validation in here. I factored this out into a middleware. So now we have this push request thing. Given a response writer in a request, it will return a push request and whether or not the request was syntactically valid, and there's something to return to the client. Chicago is so cool, and Chicago is a Polish city. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know, like, for example, in Detroit, Hamtramck is a big Polish area. I'm not sure about Chicago. I guess I believe you. But some of my family is actually Polish as well, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, Chicago's a lot of fun. I had a great time for sure. So this push request contains the payload, which is what the actual client sends us, the local address of the listener it came in on. So for example, we can differentiate between the TCP listener and the Unix socket, and then ultimately the credentials here, which may be nil if it did not arrive over Unix socket. So we have some validation here. We want to make sure we get a post to the given endpoint. It's got to have JSON. It's got to have a valid payload. Otherwise, I factored out this small helper that will basically print a log, print an HTTP error to the client, and ultimately cancel out the request. But once everything's valid, we basically pick it apart from the request context, and then we ultimately put it into this push request. And then now that we have that push request, we can do whatever we want. So right now, it's just used in tests. Basically, we send the payload once on the channel to verify that things are actually working as intended. But I think probably the next thing I want to do with this is start working on some sort of persistence. So lots of folks have been talking about doing interesting things with SQLite and Go, and it's been a number of years since I've done that. Historically, I've avoided anything that relates to CGO because I've been concerned about worrying about cross-compilation and such. This daemon is explicitly Linux only, and I know, for example, 0xJNML has been working on a CGO-free SQLite of some sort, modern C SQLite. I actually have never tried it, but I am curious, so I understand this is effectively a mechanical translation of the C code to Go or something. In-process implementation of a self-contained serverless zero configuration transactional SQL database engine. I mean, frankly, this sounds like incredible. Oh, wow. This project is sponsored by this company, allowing one of the, I'm not going to try and pronounce, I'm terrible, but allowing one of the maintainers to work on it also in office hours. Who needs SQL? I just use CSV. Yeah, I mean, that could work, but I was actually kind of thinking just use a big JSON file a la Tailscale. Yeah, I thought that was the joke that was being made too, actually. I know the Tailscale folks got pretty far, but yeah, this seems really cool. and I'm very interested in giving this a shot because we're only targeting Linux, SQLite 3.38.2. Yeah, this could be fun, you know? I guess the question is does this expose the... Oh, hang on a sec. This is a change log. Okay, does this expose a SQLite? Yes, it does. Cool. So we can use it with the standard SQL library. I know that, for example, I believe there's a lot of... Oh, I could have sworn there was actually something in here about like all of the different SQLite functions themselves. If I do use this, I should probably use build tags with the mat-n1 as an alternative. Yeah, this is just frankly an experiment. I just feel like if I'm trying lots of things in this project, I would kind of like to try this out and see how it goes. But certainly I understand that, you know, there may be... I know there's been a ton of work done on this, certainly, and it's a very technically impressive project. But yes, I do understand that there may be perhaps subtle latent bugs. But that being said, I'd like to give it a shot. And certainly if it's as easy as using a build tag to switch out this driver for another one, that's not a big deal at all. Or in fact, we could actually test with both and verify they have the same behavior, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, we're totally going to do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Or use planet scale. Yeah, well, I see what you're saying, but the thing is that this daemon is not designed really to be scale out. The goal for all of this, yeah, that you raise a very good point. The goal for all of this is to have basically just like a local storage thing, because ultimately what I want to do kind of is keep a journal of what was passed to me and ultimately track certain ZFS events, do things like, you know, pagination or perhaps some other queries. So planet scale, while it would certainly work, I'm not sure it's strictly necessary for this use case, you know. It doesn't have to be designed for it. Planet scale magically makes it scalable. Yeah, I suppose that's true. I guess I kind of like the idea of not really having an internet dependency either, because this just lives on the same machine as your this lives on the same machine as your ZFS, you know, install and everything, and then like it just pushes things over like a Unix socket is the goal. SQL seems overkill. Just use BoltDB. Yeah, I've historically used Bolt. I kind of just want to try SQLite again because it's just been a long time. BoltDB seems overkill. Just use xadders. Yeah. So certainly there's a lot you can do here, but part of me kind of likes the idea of doing SQL. Just because it's been a while, but we can always change it out later, you know. So let's give it a shot, right? So first of all, let's see here. Storage.go. Wait, people enjoy SQL? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I would say I do as well. I'm actually not particularly good at it, but SQL is great. Xadders seems overkill. Just JSON new encoder and encode. You can pry the ORM from my cold dead hands. Yeah, I'm not an ORM person. We're gonna write our own queries, so no biggie. Let's see here. ORMs make me hate using relational databases. Yeah, I can kind of relate to that. modernc.org SQLite import. Okay. So new storage. The DSN would be, I guess we could do memory for now, but let's just so first of all, probably along these lines. Only artisanal bespoke handwritten queries here. A bit of string interpolation, Bobby table style. No, we're going to use prepared statements because we're smarter than that. Yeah, this could be interesting. I just want to give it a shot, right? I mean, there's nothing stopping us from changing it later. I mean, I'm going to design this in such a way where it doesn't do a whole lot, and if we want to do something else, we can. But we're going to give it a shot, right? Should be fun. SQLite, DSN. So I guess the question is now is generally what I have historically done is I've exposed like transaction types. So effectively, I guess we don't need to do that right away because we don't even know what our data model looks like. We're going to kind of YOLO this on the fly. But sometimes what I will do actually is expose a transactional type. So you end up with something like a tx colon equals db.write. Then you'd have like tx.add_user, tx.add_log, and ultimately tx.commit. And we add an API like that, and it makes things really nice. But we don't need to start with that right away, certainly. So SQL storage, close. Cool. This doesn't take context now. Okay. Cool. So we have storage. We're going to pass storage in as a dependency to the server, or to the handler. Would you say you were not ready to commit to the transactional API? Yes, I would say that. However, I may choose to roll back my opinion at a different point in time. Yeah. Pretty good. So the handler needs this as dependency, certainly. Storage. You sure hope there won't be conflicting opinions. Jeez. You all are too much. I guess, well, probably main will close the storage, I suppose. Yeah, that would upsert me a lot. All right, this is getting too much. Zedhook, new storage. Just for now, right? Error log failed to open storage. Okay. Oh yeah, it might take a sec to compile because there's all the SQLite stuff. Cool. Good deal. Okay, so we appear to have the basics working at least. I believe the memory DSN, right? That's like a thing. Hang on. Memory, right? SQLite, memory DSN. I'm not going to store anything yet. So yeah, colon memory colon. I was right. Okay, cool. Good deal. We need to create perhaps a small schema and we'll embed it in the binary. I guess just for the time being, I'm going to make like the simplest possible thing. So effectively you have, kind of a, probably like an auto increment ID, the ZFS event ID, and then like the pool or something, like just keep it as simple as possible. So DB, oh, interesting. There's stuff for like TX in here. So CTX, maybe something like this. So when you open storage, it doesn't actually do anything. But once well, I guess the question is, do we have an explicit setup function as part of the interface, or do we do all the table initialization as part of the constructor? I guess the constructor is probably okay too. Like you're always going to call new storage and then setup. So I guess doing it in constructor is probably just fine, right? So this would be, let's see here. SQL setup. So something like the following. So func SQLite setup. Although I guess we have to pass a context to this, wouldn't we? That was maybe what I was thinking about just now, is that we have to pass a context. So maybe, because I want to be able to cancel transactions and such. So SQLite setup takes a context as well as the handle to the database. And this will actually initialize all the table schema and such, right? So we open a TX. It's actually been quite a while since I've written SQL code with Go, so I'm probably going to forget lots of things, but again, that's probably another reason I want to do this. I'm going to assume that let's see here. Isolation, read only. We need neither, so I'm guessing this can be nil. It's optional, maybe nil if default should be used. Yep, good deal. Okay. If error, right? Go to initialize SQLite. Failed to create SQLite schema. Okay, so now we have the TX. So you get in the situation here where you need to like handle the error value and then either roll back the TX or commit it on return. And the one way people typically do that is with like a named error return, which I kind of hate, but a named error return and defer, which I kind of hate, but I feel like it makes sense in this case. So oh, but then we end up with shadowing. Ugh. Shadowing concerns. So we need the TX. We have the TX error, right? So now we end up in the if error not equals nil, we attempt a rollback, right? So TX rollback. But then, yeah, we don't report the error from rollback, but if the error is nil, then we report the error from the commit, right? So maybe I will invert this logic. So tx commit. This is the way people usually do this, right? It's been actually quite a while since I've written this sort of thing. I guess maybe it was better with the before. So I'll overwrite the first error. Or I suppose what we could do is we could annotate it so that rollback is also wrapped as well, but that's fine. Okay, so now everything we do, oh shoot, we need to make sure we don't shadow, right? Because if we shadow anything in this function, this whole thing messes up, right? So probably what I will do actually is rip out the TX stuff and then pass the TX and then put this logic in a different function, but we'll get there. Right, so TX exec context. So this is where we create our schema, right? It has been a very long time since I have created a SQLite schema. Have I done SQLite in Go before? Hang on a sec. It's been a very long time. This doesn't support, this was like MySQL and I don't remember. MySQL and QL, yeah. Where did I use SQLite before? I did use it for this. So way back in the day, some friends and I tried to create a media server. We did it in C# originally. I ended up doing it in Go, and I actually did use this for a while, but I have thus since abandoned. However, there should be a SQL schema in here that I can at least use for inspiration. There we go. Okay. Why would I turn foreign keys off? Beats me. We're gonna pretend like we remember what's going on, right? So begin transaction, take some stuff, commit. Okay. Actually, wait a sec. If we're beginning the transaction in this, then okay, we don't want to begin the transaction, right? And we don't want to commit. We want to do that as part of the driver instead. I'm just gonna guess here. I probably didn't know what I was doing, so. Let's see here. So create table, let's just say events, ID, pool, zpool, and then event ID probably. Because the event ID ultimately can roll over, like ZFS will, I think whenever the kernel module restarts, it will roll over the event ID. So the auto increment ID will be different, but the event ID will just record as well. And then maybe the event type, right? So what does ZFS call that? Class. Z events call that the class, right? I think. Hang on a sec. Man. 8 Z. Z event class string. Okay, we have class. Yes, so I want something like this. Like this will be most useful for me. So, yep. Class text. Okay. We don't take any arguments. No, we have the SQL result and the error. So result error. We're gonna get rid of the. We're gonna get rid of that. I hate named returns. I feel like they're just too tricky. Anything to like the defer named return thing, just I don't like it. Just makes me a little uncomfortable, you know. So what we'll do is we'll end up like wrapping all of this with a function that handles that for us. So nil error, return error. And we'll go ahead and like dump the response because I frankly don't remember anything about what this looks like. It's been a very long time, as mentioned. So let's build the damn thing, right? Command zedhook. Tidy. You don't know after this many years in tech, you've never looked at ZFS. Can that replace MDADM? Yes. ZFS is very, very good. Would highly recommend it. It will make your life much better. I am sure MD RAID is fine, but ZFS has things like, you know, the scrubbing, the checksumming, the deduplication. You have like the caching. You have the different types of devices, so you can speed up reads or writes or metadata lookups. It is a phenomenal piece of technology. ZFS on Linux, though, yes, I'm running ZFS on Linux. This daemon, the reason I'm building this project is because ZFS on Linux has a daemon called Zed, and this integrates with Zed. So I am building this because I run ZFS on Linux and I depend on it. So I want another way of monitoring this other than just getting like push notifications to my phone, which is what the current Zed thing can do. So we're basically going to build like a kind of like a journaling daemon for this and then use that to report like Prometheus metrics and such. Is kind of the idea I have in mind. So that needs a context. Is my root FS running ZFS? No, I am not. For better or worse, I try to treat my machines as mostly disposable. So my server running ZFS, like that's the data that really matters. That's backed up in different places and replicated. My root file systems and configurations, I try to effectively be, you know, disposable. So like if I lose a disk or whatever else, I no longer, like, I don't really care. And it's like, I've never really run into a situation where I would like to have a ZFS rollback on my root file system. I think I don't make as many mistakes these days. So ZFS root is a thing people do, and I think it's interesting. I personally have not done it yet. Maybe I will next time around. Maybe, for like my server. ZFS can replace LVM, DMCrypt, DMRAID, ext4, and whatever you use for snapshots and backups. It greatly simplifies your stack. Yes, exactly. Dominic raises a great point, and I'm actually using it to replace all of those things as well. So LVM, ZFS does that built in. DMCrypt, ZFS has, or OpenZFS has native encryption support now, which I'm using. DMRAID, I'm using RAID. Well, I'm not using RAID Z2 anymore, but I'm using it on, I'm using mirror pairs. So another sort of ZFS like, was effectively the ZFS equivalent of like a RAID 10. ext4, yeah, ZFS is a file system as well. And whatever you use for snapshots and backups, yes. I use a thing called zREPL to do snapshots and backups and push things around, and it's amazing. Would recommend. Taryn uses it as root FS on his laptops. Nice. That's cool. I should try that at some point, honestly. I just have not yet. So Dominic uses ZFS for root because home is on the root disk and you want encryption. Yep, that's a good point. I should, you know, I think next time I reinstall my laptop, I will give it a shot. I wonder if Ubuntu can do ZFS root by default, maybe 2204, but I have no idea. So cool. We got SQL driver result. which has a bunch of stuff. None of this means anything to me. So we need to actually look at the type here really quick. It is super trivial with NixOS. Yeah, that's good to know, actually, because that's another place I would use it is on my server and probably my router. Well, probably my server. I feel like the router, I'd be worried about killing the SSD because it's got mSATA SSD. But my server, certainly, my next generation server, I would install ZFS root. What does this have? Is this an interface type? Last insert ID, rows affected. Okay. We don't care about the ID. Rows affected, last insert ID 0, rows affected 0. So we don't actually care about this at all. So we'll create the schema for now. Oh, you know what? I forgot to commit, didn't I? Oops. So this is where let's see here. Func with tx, tx func. So we will like the following, basically. SQLDB. Let's see here. You set up B3FS 7 years ago and you've been too lazy to change. For the next, you'll do ZFS and maybe even NixOS. Yeah, would recommend both. They're very good. Does zREPL have monitoring? Is the next project. I'm using zREPL already, and yes, it does have some monitoring, but it doesn't monitor the status of things like scrubs. So for example, I can use zREPL to figure out if I'm actually doing backups and snapshots, but I want to look at the health of the disks themselves, the health of the overall pool, and be notified, like, when a scrub begins, if a disk is resilvering, like all those things, I want to be notified immediately. So that's what this will help us do. 7 years without a bricked B3FS, you should play the lottery. Yikes. You're surprised that you've had no issues and you're doing RAID 1. Gotcha. Well, that's good. I wanted to throw my hat in the B3FS camp a while ago, but that being said, I've been really happy with ZFS. So at this point, I'm just going to stick with it probably. SQLTX. So given a database, a context, and then the function, we go ahead and do the thing, right? So we create a TX, and then we pass everything in. Error function, the context, the transaction. If the error is not equal to nil, we TX roll back, and then return error as we return TX commit. So basically, this now becomes like so, with tx return ctx db func ctx context tx SQL tx error. This is a pattern I have employed before in the past with SQL stuff, and I like it. I think that in general it simplifies a lot of the. I think in general it does a pretty good job of simplifying a lot of this, like, hang on a sec, my white space is off here. There we go. I think in general this pattern does a pretty good job of simplifying the usage of things like the TX pattern. So this works pretty well, because now you have like this overarching function which executes in the context of a transaction, and any errors from this get propagated back up, we roll back, and we return the error, or otherwise we commit it. So this works pretty good. ButterFS. I know people say ButterFS. I don't like that. I don't know. I say B3FS. I feel like ButterFS, like, I don't know. It feels like a joke to me, You liked B3FS when it was announced, back when I thought reinventing a decade of effort was easy. I feel that. I'll be back in just a sec. One moment, please. Okay, we're back. Dominic says, fun fact, last time I used MySQL, it did not support running schema changes inside transactions. Interesting, yeah. So back in the day, I was what was effectively a junior MySQL admin at a company here in Kalamazoo, and there was one time where I was given a schema change, and I ran PT online schema change with the change, and it turned out to be wrong, so we had to roll back. So it took hours to roll the schema change out, and then hours to roll back, and that was really bad. And of course, now I work for PlanetScale. This is 8 years later, and PlanetScale just, we announced the rewind feature. So if you do like a wrong schema change or a wrong drop, you have 30 minutes to revert it, and it will just like go ahead and fix it for you, which is amazing. So I find myself wishing that I had that functionality back when I was running MySQL. So pretty funny stuff. Okay, I would like to continue on with, what was I going to show? Oh, I got something silly to show off. Hang on. How do I get to... Yeah, give me just a sec. So some of you, I was debating whether I want to get ridiculous or not and post on social media, but I made a trip to Chicago, and it was fruitful, is the way I will put it. So hang on one sec. You ready for this? Ta-da! So in Chicago, there's a chain of liquor stores called Binny's, and Binny's is just like a great liquor, beer, etc. store. So I picked up some cool beers and some whiskey, and I had my first appointment at a store called Warehouse Liquors today. I got to meet the owner, had a really good time. And yeah, so I came home with more than a few bottles of whiskey, but yeah, I had a really, really awesome time. I would highly recommend, all of this. So let's see here. RIP your liver. Yeah, pretty much. What did your girlfriend say about this? She said, wow, you spent less than I thought you would spend. So I don't know how to take that, but I mean, she likes scotch at least, so she'll be happy about this too. You're going to Chicago next week? Nice. I would be happy to give some tips about some of the places we went if you're interested. Definitely worth it. LOL, she's a keeper. Yes, I agree. She's wonderful. Oh, can I come over? Yeah, man. If anybody ever wants to come to Kalamazoo, I'd be happy to share some stuff. The thing is with Kalamazoo is it's a little bit out of the way. Like your best bet's gonna be to either fly to Detroit and drive 2 hours, fly to Chicago and drive 2.5 hours, which is worse, or go to Grand Rapids, and Grand Rapids is like a 45-minute drive. Kalamazoo has an airport too, but kind of hit and miss. But if anybody's ever in West Michigan, get a hold of me. We could have some fun. But anyway, just wanted to share all that. Hang on one sec. Yeah. Let's see. Well, there's a KubeCon in Detroit. Oh, you know what? Did I know about that? Hang on. KubeCon Detroit. Because I could just go. October 24th to 28th. You know what? I think I had it in my calendar, but I think I forgot it was in Detroit. I want to go, though, because I would have lots of friends there, I'm sure. It is in my calendar. Submit a proposal. Friday, May 27th. Okay. I don't really do Kubernetes stuff at the moment. Although, I suppose I could probably, if this project makes some progress, like I could talk about how I'm monitoring ZFS with Prometheus and such. So, you plan on doing a proposal? Yeah, that would be cool. My backyard? Yeah, I totally forgot this was at Detroit. So that'd be sweet. Will I be at KubeCon Europe? I'm not planning on it. I'm not even sure where or when that is this year. I'm not really super involved in the CNCF community. I was a member of the Prometheus team, so like Prometheus is the thing that I would like most likely talk about. But I don't really have a plan for that. It's in Spain. Cool. No, I don't think so. The conference I'm looking at in Europe at this point would be All Systems Go. Let's see here. allsystemsgo.io. So coming back in 2022, Berlin, the Foundational User Space Linux Conference. So I think this could be really cool because this is a conference all about like, weird kernel poking stuff, which is exactly what I do. I think that probably a talk on like Netlink or VSOC or PID FDEs or anything like that could be really cool. You love the presentations from All Systems Go. Yeah, I feel like this could be a really cool conference, and I think that I have some knowledge I can share here. So that is a conference I would like to apply to. So if anybody finds info about this, please do let me know. Thanks. Continuing on, yeah, maybe we get to the point with this project where it's like I try and talk about this like for as like, you know, monitoring your ZFS installation using Prometheus or something, or ultimately, let's see. I was just thinking too, like, you know, I think this project will be quite useful. There are probably lots and lots of people running ZFS on Linux, and if I say here's this thing that integrates with Prometheus and it gives you alerting when your disks fail and stuff, like that would be pretty cool, you know. So definitely want that. Where was I? Oh yeah, I want to see if we actually have a schema now and if it like works. So do I have the SQLite 3? I suppose at this point we can just dump a database and see if the schema actually shows up. Hang on just one sec. So the other day I had a robin running into my window, and I think I might hear that again. So give me just a sec to go look at that. So two things. One, yes, the robin is back and it's just going to keep doing its thing. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just a little distracting. And two, I apologize if I'm talking very fast. I just realized I am way caffeinated right now. So got home and had a nice cup of coffee. Zedhook, DB. Let's do it, right? SQLite 3, right? That schema, cool. So create table if not exists, events. So select star from events. It's been quite a while. Sweet. Okay, so that worked. Is this quit? Control D, maybe? Control C? Control D. Okay, cool. It's been a very long time since I've done anything with SQL, so we're going to fumble through together. But considering I work for a database company, I should probably remember how to use databases. So, did you update your home lab repo to reflect zedhook? You're trying to learn Nix, and it would be great to see how to add a custom service. I have not yet, but I do have one custom service. MD layer home lab. Hang on. The thing is that I'm not sure how out of date this is, but under, let's see here, lib modules wireguard exporter.nix, I do actually add a new custom module and such. So lib modules and then lib packages, I have the wireguard exporter packaged as well. So this might be useful for you. Nonsense. Thanks. Yeah, not a problem. Cool. So we have a database. We are creating the table if it does not exist. Interesting that create table got converted automatically to create table if not exists, right? So, yeah, we'll do that. You know what? Are there other SQL pragmas we should be paying attention to? So, pragma foreign keys off. Seems bad. Let's go back to the, yeah, this is terrible. Sorry. I'm just trying to remember what all I would do with it. Create the database, synchronous, yikes. Yikes. Performance tuning. Yeah, don't wait for the OS to respond and then don't write the journal to disk. Yeah, don't do this. I was probably copying tricks I learned from my friends at the time, and these are bad, so don't do it. You know? Not great. Anyway, performance burr. Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. I will admit there was a point where I was guilty of doing unnecessary performance hacks for sure. I do not do that these days, you know. So we now have something. So let's go ahead and like add events to this, right? So SQLite storage. So save event. probably. MongoDB style, yeah, for sure. MongoDB ec. Struct. You're glad you met me after my alpha code phase. Oh yeah, for sure. There's a couple of repos in there that are really, really bad. I think I got good, better, sometime around 2015 or 2016. I got a lot better, and yeah. So it took me a couple of years, but I think everybody when they're a junior developer has a tendency to do things with a bit of overconfidence, and MID int class zpool string. Okay, so given an event, we save it to the database, and I suppose we could get the ID of it and return it as well if we want to, but learning Go really showed you how awful your Ruby was. Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, hang on a sec. Are SQL DBs, are they concurrency safe? Atomic access. Safe for concurrent use by multiple, cool, that's good. Safe for concurrent use by multiple Go routines, that's excellent. Okay, I could not remember, to be honest. Yeah, my C# way back in the day was pretty bad too. I don't know if like I said, everybody was a junior developer once, everybody was new once, and I think it's important to show people, so for example, there could be somebody in my stream right now who is a junior developer, and I've got a lot of experience, but it turns out that we all make silly mistakes, right? This is terrible. I kind of want to tweet about this and just share what I thought was performance tuning, In fact, hang on a sec. How old is this code? Let's check blame. To improve write speeds, 2014. Goodness. I'm gonna tweet about this, actually. Met in 2014. Yikes. Code I wrote in August 2014. Hang on a sec. I just found some code I wrote in 2014. Yep, sounds about right. Never. Remember, everyone was a new developer once. Hashtag danger YOLO. If anybody's curious. Right? It's good to sometimes look back and recognize, see where you've come from, right? Pretty cool. Hey, what's going on, JB Pratt? The worst part is DB is a connection pool, so your execs probably didn't even work as intended. Yeah, actually, you know what? You're probably right. That's a really good point. That would never have occurred to me because I was used to writing PHP where there was no connection pool, right? So what we're going to end up here is some sort of type that wraps all of this. So actually, probably I will make it so the TX, I guess, so meth S SQL storage. With TX, and so we don't need to pass the database anymore. We pass a context, we pass the function that has the context in the TX. So SDB begin, S with TX, simplifies things just a little bit. And we're going to make this a method as well. So SQL storage. Setup s with tx. Okay. Asked us setup performance tuning. Yikes. Yikes, Matt. Yikes. Setup, save event with TX. Okay. And now the thing is here too is I could have different types for read TX versus write TX. For now, I think we're just going to leave it alone, but cracks me up. Okay, so SQL open, SQLite, we create the storage, we call setup on it. Setup will actually create the schema. Within save event now, we insert, right? So insert into, I actually forget all this as well. I know it's like insert into like column names and then the fields or something, but let's see here. Pretty good. Insert into, yeah. With a prepared statement like that. Yeah, cool. At least I knew better than to allow a SQL injection right here. I did know better than that at that point, which is good. Oh, you know what? We can't use raw strings because of... do we have to... Hang on a sec. So it doesn't seem to care. Create table, events... I don't know if backticks matter in SQLite or not. I'm actually not sure, to be honest. Let's see here. So insert into events. And the column names, we're going to have event ID. And then they're optional in the context you're looking at. Gotcha. Cool. So if I can just remove all the backticks, then that would make things actually simpler, wouldn't it? So line 54 you just deleted. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. I was just I was busy working on something really quick. So then we have the fields of the event. And not file size. That's wrong. There we go. Class zpool. That robin is really going at my window over there. You can just hear it. This is a little not quite tidy. I don't really like this style, but we're going to deal with it. Line 55. I broke something. Yep, you're right. Thanks. Let's just get rid of all the quotes if we can. Like, it's just going to simplify things. If it doesn't actually matter, then... Oh, sorry. So we have the events, we have the schema, we have the values. So let's try and actually save an event to the database. So what's cool about this too, what's cool about using SQLite is that we can use tools like Lightstream to back things up. So that was another reason I wanted to look into it, because I know Ben Johnson has been working on a lot of cool stuff with Lightstream. So now our server has storage embedded in it. Once the push request is set up, we will actually go ahead and save everything, right? So if error equals hs save event. Do we want to use the client's context for this? Should the client's context be tied to... No, probably not. I don't think we want the client to be able to interrupt our SQL transactions, right? So... event ID is going to be from the push request. It's going to be a variable. The tr payload variables. Yeah, we're gonna have to do a little bit of parsing here actually. So we're gonna need to get the event ID, hang on a sec. What does ZFS give us? No, I want the man page. So we want ID, class, and pool, right? That poor bird. I feel a little bad for it, but I've been trying to scare it away for like 2 days and it's just not going anywhere. So, really quick, I guess we'll just write a quick little function to do this and then factor it out ultimately. It's kind of beating up my windows though. I'm gonna have to like go clean them up, but event payload variables switch v key hello switch v dot key, right? Expected switch expression error F, bad request, bad payload. Build to save client event. For now, keep it simple. So we have the remote address and then text, which is fine. So we have the remote address of the client. Z event EID. Oops. So now we need to parse. We're going to end up creating like a type or something that converts like a payload. The payload being the raw representation sent by the client into like a more structured event, which we'll actually store in the database and such. So, but for the time being, we're going to just do this, which is the easiest way. So, yeah, I know this isn't great. We're going to fix it. So we have the ID. We're going to have the Z pool itself, which is Z event pool, Z event class, right? Value, case, Z event class, E class, V value. Cool. Yeah, so we pick apart the payload variables. We grab the ZFS event ID, the pool, the value, and then we're going to auto insert with a new incrementing key as well. So we create this event, we ultimately store it to the storage, and we are good to go. Right? So if we run this now, table events already exists. Create table if not exists, right? Okay, now we need to actually run the thing. And I guess the way that we would actually properly run this is by putting it on my server. However, that would create probably a lot of noise, I think. So I'm not sure if I really want to do that at the moment. Well, I guess it's probably fine. I mean, I'm just going to need to open up a couple of terminals here. We're going to have to copy things over. So this is going to get a little annoying maybe, but we'll create a third set of terminals for doing the actual copies because we're going to end up having to do a couple of commands here. So cgo enabled go build sp all zedhook. Oh, yeah, that's a good point actually. So if we do the cgo version of SQLite 3, we're going to have to build on the server because we have to disable cgo for things to work sending over to NixOS, which is kind of a pain. Send it to the server, put it in the temp directory, right? So, and we'll go ahead and do this on the daemon side as well. Zedhook D. Okay, so copy all zedhook. We're going to copy this over to the ZFS D. So we move this into the proper zedlet directory. So now Zed's going to invoke this whenever it sees an event, right? And the way that we get events to happen is by running a scrub or something, and we're going to run the daemon really quick too. Sudo make dir run zd. Yeah, permissions for this are going to be funky. We're going to use systemd ultimately to run this thing, so this is just a bit of a pain in the neck right now, but we're going to keep it just as simple as possible, more or less, because we want a well-known location for the thing. Sudo zpool scrub test. Zpool import test. How did I do this the first time? Mat temp zfs.image, right? How do you import from a file again? We'll probably get some ZFS events coming up pretty quick here anyway, but ZFS import file pool, alternate directories, import -d, import -d. There we go. Can we scrub it, or it's not imported yet? Sudo zpool import test. What do you mean? Import -d. Oh, I see. Test. Okay. Scrub the test pool, and okay, that should be done. So we'll close this now. SQLite 3. Oh, shoot. So we need SQLite. So we need to put this in our NixOS configuration. SQLite. And then we got to restart the... yeah, sure, why not? So now we wait for NixOS rebuild because we are adding the SQLite CLI so we can actually check and see what was put into the database because we want to know. And assuming that works, I feel pretty good about just continuing on. We don't have to test this again for a while. It's been a very long time since I've done SQL, so... I know there was somebody earlier who mentioned like ORMs, and it's like I don't know. I don't feel like this is that bad. I feel like this is quite reasonable, and it's easy to reason about, and you can just build these nice layers up above it. Save event with TX ends up being pretty nice, I think. But I get it. Let's see here. Oh, it's restarting Plex and Unify. Interesting. Okay. Cool. SQLite 3. All right. Let's give that a shot, right? So it's too easy to generate terrible queries with ORMs. Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you. Select star from events, right? Schema. So it didn't work. Doesn't seem to have worked anyway. NixOS restarteth whatever the fuck it pleaseth. Yeah, that's the truth. definitely a big fact there. Yeah, you know what? This might be easier to debug actually if we hang on a sec. I think what we're gonna do instead. Hang on a sec. Exit. Oh, Control D. Instead of doing this with ZFS, that's gonna be really annoying. I think what we're going to do is we're going to like curl this. So make dir run zedhook d. So we'll get this running really quick, and then we're going to end up just like curling it. So post localhost 9919 push. Yeah, that's to set up all the usual stuff. header content type application JSON character set. And table events has no column name class. ID, event ID, class, zpool. Event ID, class, zpool. Interesting. How did I mess that up, I guess? SQLite 3. First of all, let's remove this. Let's remove both of these, I suppose. Okay. So we ended up with a malformed schema. Select star from events. Show table events. Great. Show events. Right. It's been a long time. Show table events. I forget the exact table events. Schema events. Oh, is it because there's no commas? Is that the problem here? Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm really rusty. Okay. Run. We'll just do go run. Failed to create. Okay, so now there's a syntax error. Alrighty, we gotta go look up SQLite schema. So SQLite creates table. SQLite tutorial.net. Create table if not exists. Schema name dot table name. Primary not null, not null. Ooh, I gotta remember to do. Let's see here. Is the trailing comma on the last field allowed? Probably not. Yeah, you're probably right about that, actually. Yeah. I'm going to guess that's actually... Yeah, that was correct, Dominic. Thanks. Last comma on the schema. Yep. Thanks, Pratik. Cool. So it claims that worked now. Select... Show me everything, please. Okay, cool. So we got something. Yeah, we got a record in there, which is good. So now we need to modify the schema just slightly. Can integers be null in SQLite? I want to basically make this represent like what the Go program is doing. So not null is, let's see here. Row ID without row ID. Do we care about the row ID? Sure, if they're not null. Yeah, I don't want to deal with like null integers, so. Yeah, it'll just be easier if we do not null, I would think. Create table if not exists events. ID, integer, primary key, auto increment. But it's like, do I actually need the auto increment key if I can just use the row ID instead? I forget. It's been, again, a long time since I've done SQLite, right? So integer, primary key. Not null unique, not null unique. Here we go. These diagrams. Creates table if not exists, schema dot select. Blob, let's see here. Defaults, we don't want defaults. Oh, you know what? I guess we do want to timestamp this, don't we? So probably what we'll do is we'll do the current Unix timestamp. I don't understand why anybody would start anything but Unix timestamp in a database. I feel like you're asking for trouble. You know. Current. Is there like a Unix timestamp? SQLite Unix timestamp. yuck. Select stirref time, %s now. Maybe I'll let Go do that instead. Actually, no, these are gonna have, it's gonna have an associated timestamp. Actually, I forgot about that. So integer not null. Yeah, I'll be happier if I use Unix timestamp, because anything with time zones is so annoying. Like anything with time zones or anything that requires parsing is so annoying. I feel like Unix timestamp is the only way to go. So timestamp 64 probably. That's not what I want to do. I want a new ID. And I'll do a time because a Go value will be easier. So event ID timestamp events timestamp Unix. We only need 1 second granularity. We don't need nano, I don't think, unless it sends us nano. I forget if it does or not, honestly. Does my payload tests, do they have a timestamp? I forget the exact format. No, we do not yet. So let's look at the Z man pages again. As long as you don't have to deal with times in the future, sure. Yeah, we would never have to deal with times in the future with Z, because it's just going to give us whatever the timestamp is of the event that was generated. So yeah, what ZFS actually sends us, what I was going to look up right now, is it sends this. So, oh, it does send nanosecond component. So it sends a seconds component and a nanoseconds component. So, well, shoot, do we care about that? I feel like we really don't, to be honest with you, but I suppose we could save it. I don't know. I'm tempted to ignore it, to be honest. I feel like this thing being 1 second granularity is totally fine, but because we're also, if ZFS is generating events in rapid succession, we're also going to have the event ID for sorting and not just the timestamp. Nanoseconds are love. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. That's fine. It's not a big deal, I suppose. Timestamp is in Unix nanoseconds. That's fine. Okay. So we need to decode those fields as well then, which is going to be over here. So the server, this is going to get all factored out into a different function. So we create, let's see here. Okay. Parse event. Given an input payload, we create an event, right? So, time to sleep. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out, Dominic. I appreciate it. Take care, man. Have a good rest. Parse the variables into the event. Ultimately, we return the event itself. Okay. Let's see here. This is where we could make a parser type of some sort, which is probably what I'll end up doing. I feel like I always replicate this code in all of my projects, so we'll end up with something that like iterates through these fields and parses out the correct types, but yeah. Do we need it right now? I guess probably not at the moment, but it'll result in some duplication otherwise. So we can, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Type parser struct kv string. So the way I always end up doing this essentially is that we're going to iterate over all of the events, and we more or less, we report an error if any of the fields don't match the expected format. So for example here, we know that the timesex and timeendsex fields are supposed to be integers as well as the ID. So if they're not integers, we're going to do things in a more tidy way to clean up. I guess the alternative would be, well, no. Well, yeah, maybe for the time being we won't do this. We'll do this instead. Hang on. Build to parse %q. So we show the key, the value, and ultimately the error that occurred. And that is going to be, we'll do this. So we'll do E, ID. I kind of don't like these partial assignments. I feel like they're a little confusing to keep track of, but I guess it's also probably fine. Let's alphabetize too. So copy this. The timestamp, we're gonna have the fractional portion. Actually, so yeah, so here's what we'll do. So we have the event itself. We have 64. So z event time seconds is going to be the seconds value, which is going to be actually parse int because we have to do a 64-bit, right? So the string, the base, the bit size. So the string itself, base 10, the bit size 64. So we have this, and then we have the nanosecond component as well. So seconds, nanoseconds, and then ultimately we, let's see here. So synthesize the timestamp equals time dot Unix nano. Oh, just Unix. Okay. Okay. So now we have the timestamp as well. We got the timestamp with nanosecond precision, which I suppose is nice because Dominic said so. So good enough for me for now. Yeah, let's, we've done a little bit already. Let's go ahead and wire this up to the test suite. I think would be a good idea, right? So we'll end up creating an in-memory database to do empty layer, make configurable for sure. So let's see. And event is the processed version of a payload. A client payload. Hey, what's going on, Cheeto Bandito? You just got here, and I may have answered this, but will this work with both BSD and Linux? So my understanding is the BSDs do not have Z, or if they do, they have something called like ZFSD, I think, which is different. If it operates in the same way, then yeah, I don't see why not. But I'm actually I only use Linux, so I'm making this work with the OpenZFS Z daemon. I guess, yeah, ZFS event daemon. My understanding is this is Linux specific, so I only use Linux, unfortunately, but there may be perhaps some way to make this work on BSD. Frankly, I don't know. That's nothing I'm really sure about. So apologize if that's not as helpful, but processes a raw payload into an event. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, not a problem. If you do find out about BSD, I would be curious to hear about it. I have no idea what the situation is like over there. I just know that I use Z already, so I want to do this. It's time to write your own shim, I suppose. Yeah, maybe. It's possible. Both components of the event timestamp. Processed after parsing everything. Failed to parse the key equals value with the error here. Parse event. Storage is the interface implemented by persistent storage types for zhook D. Storage equals a pointer to SQL storage, right? SQL storage is a storage implementation backed by SQLite 3. Closes the storage. I've got certain ways I like to arrange things in file. Roughly, the order is like, this is silly, right? But interfaces, assertions. Well, hang on a sec. This would go with the type. I like to arrange things so that you have like, interfaces and then like constructors, ultimately unexported types. I like to add the assertion here and then their own methods too. And then at the bottom, I have like, free functions essentially. I don't know why I came up with that. It's just like kind of my own scheme, I suppose. Save event implements storage. Implements storage. So ultimately, to do MD layer. Do I have an opinion on not starting dot comments with the symbol name? You had a lint on your previous job that enforced it now, so any Go code just looks wrong without it for me. I agree. So ultimately, my personal style is what GoLint used to enforce, and I know GoLint's kind of dead these days, but the standard library documentation is still written this way, and I've been writing all my docs this way for years. I also, you've probably noticed, but I have a tendency to document every single thing, whether it's exported or not. I just feel like it's for me, it's like part of like the craftsmanship of my code. And I know that dot comments can get out of date and there's lots of strong opinions, but I prefer to stick with what the community thinks is the standard. And for now, that's what the standard library does and what GoLint used to enforce. So I stick with it. And event versus event. Either is fine to my knowledge, actually. You can do storage as the interface or an event or asql storage. Like any of those things are totally fine, is my understanding. To do MD layer, consider adding a transactional interface to storage if we need to bulk insert data. New storage creates a SQLite 3 SQLite backed storage implementation using the input DSM. I feel like I should probably break these queries out into constants too. Would be perhaps a bit cleaner. So save event. Suppose I could always like write it like this too. I don't know if SQLite actually cares or not, but yeah, I don't know. For now, we'll keep it like this, I suppose. Create events table query. Schema query. Okay, that's pretty good for now, I think. Just looks a little cleaner to have the queries outside of the call, probably. SQLite queries used by SQL storage. Setup creates the schema for SQL storage. With TX, hang on one sec. Spotify is rolling some stuff. There we go. Hang on a sec. Cool. That bird is driving me crazy. It will not go away. It is just knocking on my window over and over and over again, and I feel bad, but there's nothing I can do about it, I feel like. It's frustrating, you know? So, hang on one sec. Cool. So with TX executes, this is pretty long. Begins a transaction and executes it within FN, either committing or rolling back the transaction depending on the return value of FN. Yep. You know, I suppose what I could do here, filter to roll back. Report both. Doesn't hurt, I suppose. Silicon Valley Season 6 and Maximo's house. Birds hitting the glass wall for the tree. Nice. Your parents' house had 2 big windows. There was always birds flying into them way too fast, so they only hit it once. Yeah, this bird has been like knocking on my window for like 2 days. I guess I was gone yesterday, so I didn't see it, but I have no idea why it's so desperate to get inside or what it's looking for, but it's not getting in, so it's just annoying to hear it just knocking away. But I suppose this function should probably give better errors. So failed to begin transaction. Failed to perform transaction. Failed to commit transaction. I like to give good error context where I can for these internal helpers. I feel like this will be useful eventually, you know? Yeah, so we're at the point now where I feel like I want to write some tests for this, actually. So I want to do like just a super basic test that like commits just a super basic payload to storage. I think would be smart. So let's do it, right? Going back. So internals. Not enough calls, or not enough, okay. So I think I'll make it so that the storage can be optional, maybe? For tests, at least. Let's see here. If let's see here, storage is nil, no data will be persisted between zedhook d runs. Maybe make it so that like each of the types can handle that themselves, I suppose. Like, you know, equals nil, do nothing. Do nothing for some. Yeah, I feel like that's probably fine. So okay. So all the existing tests should pass once we get this set up. Actually this won't work because I would be passing a nil pointer, not a types nil pointer to SQL storage. So, well, I guess I guess I could. That's not. It's not great. So hang on. So we have to pass to the handler on 174. Yeah, we have to pass it some kind of storage argument. So yeah, this type needs to handle it for us, unfortunately. So this won't work. We have to do it here. We've got to do it in the context of the server itself, which would be all this. So if I wanted to, I could make it so that there's this on payload hook. I could overload that. The problem is that does no error reporting right now, so just fired when a valid zedhook is patched to the server. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be probably the proper place for it, right? Is within that hook, because the hook right now is just used for testing, but, well, for the time being, I'm going to keep this as simple as possible, so to do MD layer, consider combining with H on payload. So now if we pass a nil storage to the client, it just doesn't persist anything, which is fine. So, yep, good deal. Okay, so now we actually do want to persist something. So we want to verify that something gets saved to the database. So we have several different places we can do that. Probably this test client push would be pretty reasonable. If we pass, let's see here. We could potentially get rid of the payload thing now because we could use the SQLite storage instead. Like we could just always wire up SQLite storage and always do that instead of doing this payload channel thing. That could work. As an alternative, let's see, what would be a good test to add this to? Probably the server test. Serve Unix, yeah. But this doesn't actually use the handler is what does the storage. So the handler is, yeah. Well, yeah, we gotta keep thinking about it, I suppose. The difference would be, whether we pass a, yeah. Sorry, there's a lot of places I could do this. Kind of what I'm debating right now is like where it's worth actually adding this test, because we have got a lot of different tests in here that do different things, but I suppose test client push, like this verifies the basic functionality of the whole thing, so this is probably the most reasonable place. So with that being said, we want to probably plug this into test HTTP, yeah. So ultimately we pass in a storage implementation to this. And then ultimately pass the storage into this. And then the test handler ultimately will propagate it on. So again, we may be able to get rid of the on payload hook thing completely. So now we try and fix all the places we just broke, which are the client test. So the signature of this now is a zhook storage. And client test line 53, we are going to create storage ultimately. So zhook do storage. The context we'll do in-memory storage only. Open storage, filled open storage, TS. Close. So once the handler actually stops, we push to it, we get the payload, and then we can actually access it because at this point the handler will no longer be active, right? So we can verify that something actually got saved to the database in a sec here. Okay, what else do we need to fix? Server test. This one will not actually store anything, so -v. Cool. I think we have coverage in all this code now, don't we? Yep, we do. So it's actually executing transactions and creating the schema and everything. Sweet. Okay. Good deal. We need an ability to get events out of it now. So I guess probably what we'll do is eventually we'll have like pagination and such, but what we'll actually do is something like the following: list events. Nice. Yeah, I agree. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, it's kind of satisfying to see it all kind of just work the first time around. That's a good thing. So, for list events. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see everything do. Let's query equals star from events. Right? I mean. Events, list events, implement storage. See, I feel like, we were having the conversation about ORMs. Like, I feel like, this is, totally fine. Like, I don't see any reason to like do an ORM here. You are currently relearning how to write tests in JavaScript because that's how you add user-defined functions to Snowflake. Ah, nice. Sounds like fun. It's so much nicer in Go. I can only imagine. List events query. So, but instead of exec, we're going to do query context, right? Query context ctx list events query, and then no arguments to it for the time being. Okay, this gives us back a set of rows, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Build to query all events. Then we iterate the rows. So for rows next, and we make sure we check the error because that is something that tons and tons of people forget. And actually I filed a proposal for this forever. We're supposed to be getting support in vet probably for this, which would be nice. But you do need to check the error. So failed to iterate rows. By the way, any reason to wrap single queries inside transactions? Yeah, I'm kind of doing it just as like a good habit because I expect that eventually we're going to have like, more within one thing. I expect eventually we might have like some kind of interface like bulk insert events or something like that, right? So for the time being, yes, these transactions are kind of pointless, but I'm just doing it because I feel like it's just probably a good, healthy thing to at least get started with. But yes, you're right. There's really no strong need at the moment. Rows scan, right? Yeah, we have to scan into a new event. So we, let's see here. Scan into, we have the ID, the event ID. Right. Hang on just one sec. I need to modify this. So this actually does need to be event ID. There's a reason I named it that. Okay. Mr. Goody Two Shoes here, boy scouting the code base by leaving it better than he found it. Yeah. I mean, this is a new project, but yeah, I tend to just go for what I assume is like the safest thing first. So transactions are a good idea. So why not, You know what I'm saying? Unix ID event ID timestamp E class and then E zpool. Failed to scan row. What is up with this code? Why is it broken? Cannot use this type storage because, oh, really? That's it? Yeah, I'm working on it. Don't worry. Oh, I see. I see what it's complaining about. Okay. Time.unix. So we have the, if we have the Unix nano value, wouldn't that just be a direct conversion to a time? Or no, it wouldn't be, because no, I was thinking of a duration. So I think we pass Unix. I think we do that. I believe, and then ultimately we append it. I believe that's correct, right? So given all of that, we then server test, client test, server test, client test? I don't remember. Yeah, so we have the storage still. We execute the handler. This means the handler is actually done. It processed our thing, which is good. And then ultimately we can do finally a query down here. So mass list events. Then go ahead and dump everything we found to the screen, right? So, hey, it works. Cool. So we got empty events for both. Oh, you know what? Because we are we're passing data from the current environment instead of we're passing data from my local environment instead of actually the instead of actually calling like with the proper ZFS environment variables. So actually what we can do, hang on a sec. Isn't there like a T set env? Yeah, there is. So we can do this. We can make event ID. Yeah, we can actually set as many fields as we want here, which is an interesting thing. So maybe I'll just set the pool for now. So if we set tank in here, what'll happen is we will now get. Ooh, today I learned. Yeah, it's pretty new. To be honest, I actually think I argued against this proposal. I didn't really like it because I feel like it's magic. The problem is though, is that literally this push function, if I want to test it, well, I suppose I could go to the unexported version, but this actually just gathers data from the environment. So I feel like this is actually kind of like a decent end-to-end. So I'm just going to go with that because that's kind of the purpose of this function anyway. But yes, that is fairly new. You think you've written a set-end test wrapper more than a dozen times? Yeah, yeah, totally. Let's go testing. Here we go. It's pretty new, but yeah, I said in a proposal I didn't think it was necessary, and then I got overruled, which is pretty funny. And now I'm using it, which is also 117. So, oops. In fact, let's go find it because I'm just curious now. It'll be closed. Testing setenv. Write file tb setenv. I guess yep, I thumbs down this. Here we go. Fetching data, this is me right here. IMHO fetching data from environment variables should only ever be done in package main and then plumb throughout the rest of your program using regular Go data types. I don't think this would encourage good code hygiene since environment variables are effectively globals. So me a year and a half ago, I argued against this, and here I am today using it in my own damn code. It's pretty funny. I mean, that's true IMO, but yeah, it is. It's just in this particular case. Fun fact, MDLayer argued against adding this and is before using it in this code. So if you're reading this in the future, you'll laugh about it. Using this code about 1.5 years later. I guess it's useful because you can't always control the code and libraries you depend on that read from env. Yes, that's very true. So the thing is with this package is that I want people to, this API is meant to be magic, right? It's meant to gather from environment because that's how Zed works. I just think this is funny. So. I could return a handle to the storage too, I suppose. So let's see. So to MDLayer factor out ephemeral storage constructor. Well, I suppose what I could do is I could do like zedhook memory storage or something. I could make a constructor for it, but I'm not going to right now. It's not strictly necessary. See, part of me, like, it is kind of useful just to see the whole thing work, but part of me still doesn't really want to use this because, hang on a sec. It just feels gross to me. Like, I know it's fine, of course, but it just feels a little gross. So, yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'll deal with it. So let's see here. The server. Oh, you know what? So actually this unhook thing or the unpayload thing is useful for synchronization, right? So what I'm doing here is my handler is actually parsing it and storing it, and then ultimately it's firing this onPayload, which means like, hey, I did a thing. So I think that we want to probably leave this alone because we want to verify that everything actually, we probably want to leave this alone because this is useful for synchronizing that we got this correct. Although I guess it doesn't matter because we're going to have this right header thing too. It's fine for now. We can leave it alone. The client is going to block us regardless right here. Like the client will block until we get the HTTP request, and then ultimately we check the storage down here. So, all right. We're done sending. We're done pushing events. So verify that the server parsed our payload successfully and noted the input pool. So we literally want a single event with 0 values. So zpool. Tank being the class, Tank and Dozer, the matrix character is funny, but those are the classic names. Payload typo in comment. Thanks. Tank and Dozer are the classic names in the matrix, or the classic ZFS pool names too, which is funny. That's unexpected events. Panic F. No, we don't want a log fatal. We want a T fatal F. So no T fatal F. Right. And actually, this will fail too because it probably has an ID associated. So we probably have to do this. So we have the Z pool, and then we have ID 1 because auto increment. Right. So. And then the timestamp, Unix time 0. I see. ID, event ID, timestamp. 0 value. Oh, not the 0 value. Explicitly the Unix 0 value. Unix time 0 is what we want. Yep, cool. Good deal. So this works. We successfully have done the thing. So that's pretty sick. Yeah, this is really cool, this modern C SQLite. I'm really glad we're giving this a shot. We can always switch to the CGO version if necessary as well, but very cool. Thing equals done. Yeah, no, this is super easy actually. So we're in decent shape with this. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap stream here in a sec. This has been good, but I think I just kind of want to go relax a little bit before I gotta go back to work tomorrow. But yeah, we'll commit all of this, and then we can send somebody a raid. Would be fun, right? So git remove command zedhook d.db. So go mod, go some storage. Yeah, this is cool. So this will go up on YouTube as well, and we will probably continue working on this. I don't know. It might be a few days. I will probably be doing a Twitch stream for work on Thursday, actually doing some open source stuff for Planet Scale, which should be a lot of fun. So I'm excited about that. But in the meantime, so internal zedhook, initial storage, backed by SQLite. You've got a meeting at 5, so good timing. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, not a problem at all. So, all right, let's see what's going on really quick. Oh, hey, Anthony Writes Code is streaming. I have not seen Anthony in quite a while, so I think we're going to send Anthony a raid. So let's go ahead and do that, right? So thank you all so much for hanging out. I certainly appreciate it. Appreciate you all. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope to see you soon. So, alrighty. See you later.